I think the word routine really describes it quite well when you're down in a place like Antarctica, because pretty much every day, aside from the stormy days, is completely the same. And it usually started with getting up early before sunrise, getting something to eat, quick coffee, and then going down and digging snow, because usually our skidoos that we used in order to go from A to B, they were covered in snow every night. And then we packed up all the gear, we packed the sledges, we drove out to the penguins, and we spent the entire day from until it got bright to until it got dark. And yeah, we filmed whatever we could. We usually had an agenda for the day, a topic that we wanted to film, and that's what we try to achieve every day. And then going back home, having a soup, and yeah, getting ready for the next day. So the comforts of home that I missed most, obviously, was my wife. Not having her around was tough because it was a very long time. The first time I stayed down there was for 15 months, and the second time was for 11 months. And not being able to see your loved ones during that time frame is quite a burden that you have to carry. And of course, you know, whenever you had a bad day, there was nobody to hug you, to just listen. At least nobody who was really super, super close to you. And that was for sure a burden. And that is also the one reason why I would be very hesitant to spend another winter down there in Antarctica. Well, I think that's an obvious one, right? So we ate frozen food. No, I'm just kidding. No, we actually had a chef with us on station, which was quite a cool thing. And he made sure that we always had something fresh. So even at the beginning of our stay in Antarctica, we had a lot of fresh foods, a lot of veggies, salad, everything you could wish for. Of course, that went out during winter time, and then we actually really had frozen food, but our chef knew how to make something very nice out of that. And then once we got back to the next summer season, fresh stuff came back in, and that was usually a treat for both the eyes and the taste buds. Yes, so for me personally, a lockdown is something that I'm quite used to. I've spent 26 months of my life in lockdown, actually also wearing a face mask, funny enough, at least most of the time. And I think I can cope with it quite well because I learned how to entertain myself with, you know, reading, working on my photos, working on my stories, doing sports, playing an instrument, stuff like that. So that's usually a good way to keep your mind busy and to stop thinking about being locked in. But then also, I can absolutely relate to people who are having a tough time with this, because especially when we didn't have the chance to go out, when there were storms raging for a week or 2 weeks at a time and we couldn't get out of station, that was quite a burden on our minds. And having people to talk to, having people around you helps to cope with that. And if that is also taken away during a lockdown, I completely understand that people struggle with it. That being said, I would probably say just try to stay busy somehow. Do something for yourself, do something for your wife, your husband, and make the best of it. Yes, unfortunately, I think that Antarctic research has been affected by COVID, especially from a logistics point of view. So, as far as I heard, there are no planes flying in, or only very few planes flying into the continent this year. Most people are going by boat, so they have their 2 or 3 weeks of quarantine time that they need. And it will affect future research programs, probably. It will delay them, at least. Hopefully it will not cancel them. Also, funding probably is going to be an issue, with a lot of money needed to take care of the economy. So usually that is taken away from science and research, which is a bad thing. So yes, I do think it will affect research in a negative way. I think when you are working in a place as hostile as Antarctica, there are a lot of scary moments. But obviously you are prepared for these scary moments to happen, and you have trained that many times, how to cope with such things. And whenever we were out and all of a sudden the weather would change, maybe it was unexpected, that became scary quite a few times. We did film and photograph during a storm, which was a scary experience because on the way back we had troubles with our GPS units and we couldn't see the way back home. So it took us a long time. Usually it took us like 20 minutes. And this time it took us around an hour or maybe even longer to get back to station. And the tension in your body, it only goes away once you see the silhouette of the station in the distance. And then you know that you are going to make it back home. But until then, there's quite a bit of adrenaline rushing through your blood. So I would say there were some scary moments, but we were trained to cope with them. I think one of the things I miss the most about Antarctica is the quietness of the place, the silence. So whenever you were standing out on the sea ice and if there was no wind, there was absolutely no sound whatsoever. And this is something that I am not familiar with here in Europe, especially where we have a lot of people, a lot of roads, traffic, trains going by, planes flying around and so on. And there's never this moment where it is absolutely silent. Even now, I'm standing here in the forest and you can hear the leaves in the trees. And while it is a very beautiful sound, it's not quiet. And I think that's one of the things I really miss.